Heart Radio, Medicine from the Moon Cave. I'm Phoenix Nagig, I'm the Womb Whisperer, and tonight we have a very special guest, Anaiya Sophia. Anaiya Sophia has been what is the word, Anaiya? An absolute pioneer in this field of awakening feminine wisdom, and has been a huge influence in my life, and an inspiration. So I'm very excited to introduce you to her tonight. Hello, Anaiya.
Hey, Phoenix. Very, very good to be here with you.
Hey, thank
And
you.
you, listeners.
Anaiya is in France.
That's right. Yeah, the Pyrenees, Cathar land. Yeah.
The magic, the warmth, the flowers.
Oh, yes. It's all coming out now. It's breathtaking. We've started with a very warm and very quick spring. Almost overnight, it's turned from winter to spring. And every day, both Pete and I are extremely thankful for the beautiful privilege to be living here.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Let's start there with the spring. That's a great place to start. So tonight's edition is on the waxing moon. What is the waxing moon when we're journeying with our female, with our feminine, with our womb cycle? As we drop in and down, we're going to feel and allow and activate the bright spark of light, the essential magma, the volcanic roar of life, of creation. And we're going to welcome that presence up through the body of the earth and into our womb. Allow our womb, allow our ovaries to ignite. And as we allow ourselves to charge, recharge, as we come out from the darkness of the new moon and the depth of the bleeding time, we're coming to spring. We're rising. We are that phoenix rising from the ashes. We are the buds that are pushing up through the soil out into the world. As we drop in, we're asking ourselves the question, what am I birthing? Who am I birthing? Where am I birthing? This passionate fire, this fire that burns, and Kali-esque, she has a sword. She has a gift to ignite truth. And we can feel in our bodies, even our skin, from the hormones, from the follicular creating hormones, our skin is brighter. Our light is brighter. We are going into the world. We feel external. This is a great time to action. This is a great time to speak. This is a great time to organize. And as we allow ourselves to be seen, and as we find that authority in our body, being aware not to go into overdrive and to create from fear, from adrenaline, from cortisol, coming into that alignment, almost Amazonian, a warrior-esque, really not seen in our culture. And tonight, on this fierce moon, we welcome Anaiya Sophia. Anaiya's journey to stand in the fierce feminine has been a very public one, personal one, and a public one. And I have invited her here tonight because I know she knows the wisdom of this wild feminine, from her womb to the world. She is bringing it, she is speaking it. She is bold, brave, courageous, and standing in a fire that many of us would run from. So shall we start there, Anaiya? There is a emergence on the planet at this time of a fierce feminine, a bold feminine. Why is that different to the loud, strong, angry essence that we might already know in ourselves?
Well, that's a great question, Phoenix, because that is what I'm writing right now. I'm writing a book called Fierce Feminine. I had to say it twice there. Fierce Feminine, one woman's journey to find her authentic voice. And the emphasis is on her, because that was my prayer. That was what I was asking, to truly and sincerely know, what is this fierce feminine? Because it's not an excuse for our own personal anger. It's certainly not man bashing, absolutely not. And it's not another, many people are calling this another feminist movement. And to me, that's not it either. It really is a clean and ferocious stand for something more than just the self. So it really is this uprising in my heart for all that is innocent in this world, that's on planet, in the planet, above the planet, underneath the planet, and in the astral realms that govern, you know, all the powers and principalities that hold this existence in place. And I have been saying recently that the fierce feminine, the sacred feminine, or the divine feminine, or the great mother, she's not going to speak our mother tongue. So she's not going to speak English. She's not going to speak German. She's not going to speak Brazilian, Portuguese. Her language, I suspect, is an enactment of womankind. So we're all going to make our own sound, and that sound will join with the sound of our sisters, and some kind of new communication is going to be expressed upon this earth. And once that communication is expressed, things will miraculously and gracefully slide into their right place. So we've all got to make our sound.
I can't say anything to that.
I know, it's all very new and yet rather familiar.
Yes. So would you know her in an elemental form, in an emotional? What's your sense as she rises in that way?
For me, it is an all body, mind, heart, soul feeling. It is most definitely an upsurge. It comes from the earth. It comes through the feet and up. And it is like a wall of horizontal knownness or expression or sound even. It doesn't even need to make sense. That's what I mean by it doesn't need to be in your mother tongue. It is some kind of expression that is so horizontal, it just affects all within your field of standing as defender and protectress of the innocent, of the undefended, of the injustice that is happening. And you're simply not afraid anymore. You're not afraid of being judged, humiliated, ridiculed, cast out, because you know this has got actually nothing to do with me. I am acting on behalf of and standing alongside fellow warrior midwives in this unknowable and yet strangely familiar evolutionary shift that seems to be coming through the women at first, but for sure will absolutely draw in the men.
Mm-hmm. And is your sense that that is happening collectively to a woman, even if she isn't on a path to connect with her inner wisdom?
Personally, I feel that woman will have to be teetering on the edge of welcoming this in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel there will be a little prayer going on, some invocation, some welcoming in of this ferocious force, because I sense we are the pioneers, we are the ones saying yes at this moment. And perhaps once enough of us have allowed this expression and stance to be embodied, then the ladies who are just happily not asking will get wrapped up in this tsunami of new expression.
Yes, and that's my next question. What's your sense, Anaiya, of that expression as it emerges through a woman? What happens to her? How is she different? What is cleared? What moves? What changes in her?
Well, I imagine that she would have been being nudged persistently by her own intuition. There will be something that she is being called to attend to, whether it's some sort of secret in the family, some sort of malpractice happening in the workplace, something her company or industry is, choosing, something in our spiritual community. There will be something that her innate inner wisdom is saying, oh no, this is not good. You got to say something about this. And of course, like us all, we spend a lot of time trying to ignore and silence and push down that gorgeous intuitive voice. But something is going to happen, whether she sees her friend post on Facebook, or whether she reads it in the newspaper, or notices it on the Grammy Awards, some actress coming forward and saying, oh, by the way, this is what's going on in our industry. She will be encouraged by a fellow sister, I would imagine, at this early stage. And without any thought having the chance to come in, she will flare up like a Christmas tree and just inwardly say yes to the process. And she will just find herself speaking before her mind can intervene and say, oh my God, what are you saying? And who are you saying it to? And it really is that quick. And that is what is so exciting about it. It's like all of us ladies are petrol-soaked pieces of paper. And even just the slightest spark sets off this ferocious blaze of truth that has been waiting a long time to be sounded out.
So what happened? What happened to that fire? Where has she been for so long?
Oh, wow. Well, I always see things through the Western mindset, which is fortunately or unfortunately something I'm part of. I would say a couple of things have dampened down that fire. The church, the heavy Roman Catholic Church is definitely an area of life that did rather well in its attempts to silence womankind, going all the way back to the creation myths that suggested that Eve is the reason why man fell from the Garden of Eden. So immediately there is this sense of wrongness about womankind. And it was only about 5 centuries ago, which is 5 ancestral lines ago, 5 generations ago, that the Pope actually came out and announced that woman does in fact have a soul. Huh. And this needs to be this needs to be said again, only 5 centuries ago. So that's 5 generations ago in our Western timeline, the Pope came out and apologized to womankind, saying, you do, in fact, have a soul.
Wow.
I'm also told that later that day, that same Pope came out on that same podium and announced, and so do animals. And this was told to me by Leo Rutherford, a very well-known, well-respected, mature, worldly, shamanic healer. So women didn't even have their one day. I mean, I have no problem sharing my day with animals, but we need to notice that we were classified the same as animals. And back in that time, that is not a good classification to have. So, our aunties and sisters and daughters and mothers and grandmothers and fathers, brothers, sons and husbands, we would have lived with the idea that we have no soul. So what on earth happens to us when we die? And how is it for the men who love us and who have fathered us and who have married us? How is it for them to know that when they die, they won't be going to the same place as their women? This is huge. And of course, the unspoken agreements that pass down through our ancestors, that women are secondary. We are, especially in the West, we are expected to be pleasing and subservient and to serve and to just quietly get on with our mothering duties and be the householder. No one actually teaches that, but we sort of silently agree that's our place. And that men are the stronger, worldly decision makers and choice takers, and they shall guide not only the family but the country. And so we fall silent. But when I contemplate myself, if I had a sense that I had no soul, like the church and the state have been telling us, I too would probably fall quite silent, because I've lost contact with my essence and my longevity and my sense of being eternal.
So here we are in the 21st century, bringing through our beautiful gifts and learning to relate again as men and women, and come into communities and find ways of belonging. And what seems to be happening is there's a lot of beauty in that movement, a lot of honesty, a lot of integrity. And there's also another energy moving in both men and women that is not so honorable. Would you talk to us about that, Anaiya, and your experience of that?
Could you give me another little pointer into what area? I'm sat here with my eyes closed.
Sorry.
Feel
So,
accurately.
Yeah, so I was pointing towards that sort of oppression of feminine power.
Mm.
And so, as we're coming together, the feminine power is indeed rising, and there's also a sort of an energy that is would prefer to close that down,
Mm.
prefer to shut that down, subconsciously even.
I was just writing about this earlier. As I said, for this book I'm penning at the moment, and the word that's always been used in the past is archon, an archonic energy. Back in the days of the Old Testament, this would have been the temptations or the influences of the 7 deadly sins. And of course, all of that has kind of left us now. We're a modern people, part of a modern race. We don't say those words sins anymore. You know, perhaps we feel we've outgrown those fairy tales. But the problem is these tendencies, these I'm calling them anti-awakening tendencies, are still very much here. They have always been here since the beginning of time, and humankind has lived alongside these agents, let's say, always, and it might always be that way. And yes, there are agents of anti-awakening. So as this gorgeous upsurge of pure, the goodness of the feminine spirit and source coming into view, and we're hearing and seeing her in both mankind, womankind, and children, there will be forces that oppose that. And it's not a figment of our imagination, and it's certainly not to be spoken so that we become paranoid. All I want is for us to be aware and informed that there are swaying energies that come in via thought form, which will result in emotion, which will result in an action. And for us to be lovingly okay with that. And this could be, the enticement of war. This could be happening through government. This could be happening through border control, walls going up. Yes, this influence is pretty much absolutely everywhere.
And so, as if a woman is opening her feminine beauty, her softness, her flow, her listening to her inner guidance, do you feel she's more susceptible to that collective? What would I'm using the words collective shadow? Collective shadow?
Yes, for sure. In the astral world, for sure. This is a dangerous and threatening thing to this, let's just say, darker agenda. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I am aware, basically. I'm a mystic, and I'm aware. Also, this kind of awakening woman will also be incredibly attractive to a mortal man seeking her blossoming beauty, not to please him, but to usurp and probably glean from her information, mystical knowledge, creativity, or simply be this gorgeous thing on his arm, enhancing whatever it is he's going for in life. So woman must be double aware of the astral and the 3D.
So I can hear that in the 3D, she needs to cultivate ground and boundaries and the fierceness. And how about in the astral realm? What's she doing with that collective energy that's just in our society? How does she protect herself?
Well, I would say the development of her own inner masculine, so that she's not needing an outer masculine counterpart to defend and navigate and clearly see what is and what is not. So I always feel that the work of the inner marriage is absolutely vital to walk alongside, parallel the awakening of the womb and the blossoming of that gorgeous, radiant beauty. Because the inner masculine is going to take care of boundaries and the ease and grace of being able to say no in the 3D physical world, but also the development of her own consciousness and discernment when it comes to the astral. She'll be able to sniff out, these tendencies, these anti-love, anti-life tendencies that might be, just gently, subtly whispering in her ear, lean this way, lean that way. And she'll go, aha, I know who you are. No, thank you. I am following the rich wisdom of my womb. Be gone.
Be gone.
Yeah.
And that, the energy that doesn't want the feminine to rise,
Right.
so in the cultures and communities that appear to be about the rising feminine in some cases. And yeah, I just want to bring that, if you are open to sharing anything of what your sense is. What is that? If these beautiful containers are being made around the world, but then there are teachers and guides who do not want the feminine to rise in those spaces, what does a woman do?
Okay. The feminine, I feel, is going to birth a society, a community that is completely without hierarchy. There will be no individual teachers or teachings or hierarchy or person of importance anywhere. And that is a great, great threat to the patriarchal system, which of course has its components in our spiritual worlds. There will be no guru. There will be no wise teacher that doesn't get challenged and stands at his or her center of power. All of that is coming to an end. And of course, as we straddle both worlds at the moment, those who are reluctant to authentically encourage the sovereignty and beauty and courage in, let's just say, his or her female students or participants, then that person is creating a very grave error in the service of the feminine. He or she must bless and encourage and serve their participants or students to become greater than the projection they will be placing upon that teacher at the beginning. If that teacher, however, doesn't do that and holds on to this sense of I am the powerful one, only I have the answers, and you shall do just as I say and just as I guide, then all participants and students will not fully blossom. So it's kind of very much a covert and false environment. And what troubles me greatly is all of this is happening in the realm of spirituality. I feel this is where us humans are so incredibly vulnerable. And it angers me greatly that these errors and malpractices can happen in this spiritual place, where we are most unguarded, most so wanting to trust, needing to trust, and be led by another, authentically handing over our power and all of our ego tendencies, because we know that's what we're supposed to do. And we're hoping that someone with a very good moral compass is going to pick up our power for a while and gently guide us in the right direction. But what if that is not happening? What if the one who picks up our power is guiding us in the wrong direction? And we believe we're awakening. We believe the womb is opening and connecting to the web of life, and we're getting our healings, but we're actually not. We're actually buying into a parallel and false teaching. And things like this are happening.
They are. They
So
really.
we must be incredibly, totally attuned to our teacher and facilitator and healer and shamanic medicine maker. Really check in with everybody we're interacting with spiritually and ask that question: am I safe in their company? Am I wise to be trusting this one? Is there any part of my intuitive intelligence that is nudging me that something is not quite what it appears to be? And believe that.
That's so juicy. Thank you. If I had heard that 10 years ago, let me tell you, I mean, it's life-changing. I hope everyone can hear what Anaiya is saying. It's so big. Do you know what, Anaiya? I sat in a circle once, many years ago, and it was a circle where everyone had just sat down. So no one knew each other. And one participant, as soon as we sat down, challenged the teacher and said, why are we in a circle that you and your team are all sitting together like a hierarchy? Yes. And it blew my mind. I was terrified. I was like, oh, I can't believe she's questioning the teacher. And it's that, isn't it? It's to find that voice and authority.
Yes.
And dare, like that woman did that day years ago. And I will remember her for the rest of my life.
Beautiful.
Because she said it.
Yes.
To a flabbergasted teacher.
And the number of times that I've been in tantric communities or tantric workshops, and I find myself in the middle of a practice that I'm not happy about, very uncomfortable. I can see the elephant in the room. I can feel the motives and the hidden agendas, and I have been silent. And I just let it carry on. And all sorts of inappropriate things were happening. And I just didn't have the voice, nor the legs to remove myself. And that's what I want to prevent from happening. We find our voices, and if we don't like the environment we're in, we just freely walk away.
I guess there's a sense that we give our power away to a teacher. They sort of reparent us in a way. Yes. So the moment when we realize that something is not right, it's an even bigger pull, even bigger than to pull away with your parents. You know, it's a huge unmerge.
Yes.
That needs to happen.
Yes. And I was definitely from the school of a true spiritual path requires lots of brutal ego bashing. You know, I'd read the Bible, I'd read the Bhagavad Gita. I had understood what was happening out in India, you know, the times of the great yogis. So I was like well versed with this understanding that us Westerners needed this really barbaric, full-on annihilation of the ego. So I was like totally up for that.
Yeah.
But that's not true.
No.
That was for then. That was for that epoch. And also, back in those days of yoga coming from India, the yogis were men. Here in the West, there's a lot of ladies, many ladies, going into this spiritual awakening. We might not need that same handling. We're not yogis from 700 years ago.
And I have that sense, Anaiya, I'd love your wisdom on this, that the mother wound, that leaving of the earth, where we all got hoarded up into ownership and land ownership, people ownership. So what's that, 5,000 years to 10,000 years on the earth? That mother wound, that yank from the earth and from our sovereignty with the earth is at the core of all the spiritual traditions, even if they're amazing. And of which, of course, they are many in many ways. But there's essentially the love, cuddle, holding, roots, ground, authority part might not be there.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
The part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what does that create if a community is awakening to the feminine, perhaps in the sacred lover energy, and then she starts coming through with the fierce feminine energy? I guess she has to be stopped. That's because it's frightening.
Yeah. I remember someone saying to me last week that the powers that be, the governments of this world, the ones who are maintaining this patriarchal control, their greatest fear, the one that strikes them right in the center of the heart, is people gathering. And of course, this is a very feminine tendency and trait, to gather, to share, to motivate and encourage, to cross-pollinate, to teach, yeah, I think I said inspire. But that is where I believe the momentum of her will, or her, let's say her medicine, that is where her medicine gets given, strengthened, and administered to as many beings as possible. So shows like this, Phoenix, this is what the powers that be are absolutely turning in their beds over, dreading that this level of connection and love and hope and courage and faith, because obviously there's a rapport between me and you. Hopefully the listeners are absolutely picking up on it. Something's starting to burn in their hearts. This is how it's going to happen. Grassroots, very natural, very, filled with goodness. The standing rock. I always use that as an example. Yes, there was a protest, but we must remember that behind that protest, there were lots of gatherings. The tribal people were gathering with the white people and re-educating them on tribal ways and saying to the white people, in a really good way, you guys have got a little bit of white entitlement going on. And if you like, we can work together, as a people of all colors to learn new ways of being together. And this was so exciting for me. Not that I went, unfortunately, but I was with the people as they came back and learning how this was, Standing Rock was a hologram. many things were happening at the same time. And I feel if anyone's up for creating a protest, weave into the protest educational and healing spaces. So that the ones on the front line can come back into the arms of others waiting for them with medicine, with love, with encouragement, give them everything they need, and they go back to the front line. In the meantime, the people in the secondary positions are working alongside others and finding the right way of being together and being effective.
Yeah, and that's the mother again, isn't it? It's the nourishment, the care, looking after one another, the circles, egoless, you know. Well, we all need our ego, but you know, it's coming back to the body and holding one another again, and being tired and crying and feeding soup and sitting by the fire and what a world.
Yes.
I had a sister who was in Africa last year, and she said, you know, every night everyone was gathering in the sort of huts, roundhouses, and all you could see because of the color of the skin in the, I think this was Tanzania, I can't remember, was these white teeth laughing around the fire because it's so dark, laughing to 1 a.m., 2 a.m. every night. Chat, 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 laugh, 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 talk, talk, talk.
Yeah.
Oh, and my heart I just love that. The teeth smiling around the fire just makes me so happy.
Yes, yes, yes.
You know, all together. How beautiful.
Yeah.
So a new world is emerging, and I feel so excited listening to you, Anaiya, because I know you're carrying all that wisdom and sharing that with the world in so many ways. How can listeners, male and female, come to you, work with you, read your work, books, etc.? What's happening?
Well, I have my website, which is ANAIYA'Sophia.com. I would say if you came to the website, you might go to a page called Transmissions, because like you, Phoenix, I like to work with my voice. And I'm half Irish, so that gives me the right to say I'm a storyteller.
You are. You're so beautiful. Yeah.
And so I guess people can find these places on the inside with a little story, a little charm, a little enchantment, so that their inner wisdom can take over. Because we're talking about things that we totally know, but have been buried over by layers and layers and layers of thought form and strange conditionings and strange agreements that we've been making with the world. So what we need a voice that can guide us back to what we already know. And this is a kind of nice way, actually, because it's not theory. You're not learning something. You're letting go and allowing someone to take you to a place that you know already exists. And you're being lavishly encouraged to believe in that place inside of you again.
And that is that inner wisdom that we can receive in ourselves by being guided, that passion, that knowledge, that knowing that no book, no science, nothing can touch the wisdom of that soul and heart. Could I just ask, what has your own journey been in terms of, maybe if we rewound a little bit, who might you say you were before listening to this depth wisdom in yourself, And who are you now?
Well, I did notice at the beginning of the interview, you said things like, she is bold, she is fierce, she is brave. And I was calling on my inner child, which is Julie. And I said, Julie, are you listening to all of this? You know, you are 48 years old now, and look at what people are saying about you. Because Julie, when she was a little tot, I'm an only child, you see, and I felt very alone as a small one, very undefended, very exposed to the absolute wild nature of life and everything it expected from you. So I was actually very timid, very shy, and what you would probably call a good little girl. But that was because I was just making things as safe as I possibly could. You know, I was keeping the wolf from the door, so to speak. And so, you know, when the way you described me, I was like, wow, well, listen to that. So, yes, I have been that classic shy little girl, feeling very alone and very overwhelmed by it all, to suddenly being this person who's actually sincerely going out on a limb, facing all sorts of strange powers, astral and real, and just flipping, not laying down anymore, giving it my best shot.
Giving it your best shot. And,
Yeah.
and in terms of your womb and your womb's journey with that, have you seen a shift with the archetypal journey made in Mother Crone, with the emergence of perimenopause?
Oh,
menopause,
God, yes.
What's, yeah.
There is no denying the power of this journey. I feel I've got through the peri stage. The peri stage definitely produced a character and a being that I did not recognize. It was like being premenstrual for 5 years. Oh, Phoenix, honestly, I just kept apologizing to my nearest and dearest because I didn't know who has stolen my personality.
Wow.
I was very intense, easily angered, very distrustful of life. I really was like on the edge of my seat. And what I'm noticing, what I'm reading about the menopause, is it absolutely takes no prisoners. If there's anything inauthentic in your life, the power of the menopause is going to melt it down. Anything false and fickle and vain and inauthentic is going to burn, you know, before your very eyes as you clutch with your white knuckles. But it's snatched from your hands and eaten before you. And I was a little bit concerned. I was like, either I'm having a complete breakdown or this is the first phase of menopause. And I must say, in the last year, because I went into menopause early, I'm now plain sailing, and it's fabulous. My joyful, natural, sort of buoyant happiness has returned. The mood swings are no more. Thank Goddess. Yes, and I must say, I haven't had any hot flashes or anything, but I feel that's because I've kept up with my Kundalini yoga. So I feel that's been really thinned out. And I had a hormone test done a few months ago, and apparently I'm nearly at the end.
Oh, they can tell, can they?
Yes, yes.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
But because I never had a child, you see, my last big moment on the womanly path was when my moon cycle began. There was no mothering phase. So boom, in comes menopause
Yeah.
and knocks me for six.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I know how many women are going to love hearing your story about that because it's so taboo,
Yes.
even in this field,
Yes.
because it's sort of presented that the empowered feminine is young and pretty and, you know, uh, light, I suppose.
Yes.
And
Yes. Yes. Yes.
yeah, in many places.
There's also another interesting moment that must be mentioned, and that is obviously there's a new sexual stance and positioning because the hormones, the desire filled hormones wean away from the system. And
Mm.
so your need for sex sort of, what's the best way of putting this? Vanishes. The reason for sex vanishes.
Mm.
And so you're left in this no woman's land of great unknowing
Ah,
because your programming for procreation no longer exists.
ah,
And this is where Pete and myself find ourselves now, totally in this no man and no woman's land. And we are having to learn and feel for new impulses to come together. Because
mm.
the desire for the orgasm and the ejaculation don't really mean anything anymore.
Wow, yeah.
But it's also, this could be like a bludgeoning blow to man and womankind, but we're not seeing it that way, although at times we do. Because it's a huge program, but we're having to be innocent and feel for a new way. And I know in my womb, Phoenix, there is a new way, and it's probably the most incredible discovery for our race, actually. Rather than it being a death, if we could just push it a little bit further into rebirth, I
Ah,
believe we're going to find a very new and authentic and vulnerable, intimate way of being together.
ah.
And it's not about reaching that goal anymore, but something else.
Because our culture has obviously, panicked about this phase and
Yes.
promoted Viagra. I mean, I walked past Boots the chemist, which for anyone not living in England, that's a very mainstream, normal chemist throughout the country in every town. And had a huge Viagra sign in the window. I mean, it's just completely normal now. It's been
Yes.
completely normalized.
Yeah.
And so the panic of what's happening to the sexual energy in the man, it can't be met. So we create drugs.
Yes.
And it's heartbreaking because there's that opportunity, like any change, to grow and,
Yes.
and make a new way with something.
Yes. Yes.
We don't want to be with a 60-year-old man who has the penis of the 18-year-old.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love this journey with Pete. We're both at the same age. We're both in the same phase of life.
Mm.
And we are just navigating. We're so going there together,
Oh,
discussing absolutely openly. Not one thing is left hidden, confessing our fears, showing our frustrations, but nevertheless turning up the next day ready to go again and be guided by this great unknown spirit. Well, how does man and woman be together now then?
yes.
What more can you show us?
I remember, I think we spoke before about this, Anaya. Was it Malidoma Some's tribe?
Yes.
They said to the Western journalists there was no word for sex.
Yes. Yes.
They didn't know
Yes.
what the journalist was talking about. And they said, "Oh,
Brilliant.
you mean," what did they say? Did they say, "Oh, you mean when two spirits or souls come together," or something, the dance of the spirit? I can't
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
It was a union
Mm.
of love,
Yeah. Yeah.
and guidance from the ancestral spirit.
Beautiful. Yes.
Yeah. And surely the goal of being human is to love as deeply as we can and reach our elderhood and love as deeply as we can, not lessen that
Yeah.
experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, beloved Anaiya, I believe you're going to lead us out with a meditation, a spoken word piece. Is that right?
Yes.
Thank you. Mm.
So, beloved ones who are listening, we are living at a time of great change, great exciting and terrifying change. And in our womb and in our hara, there will be placed a sacred task to be reached in for at this time. And it will be a bold and new step of contribution from you to your nearest and dearest. It is something you've put on the shelf. It is something that you have said, oh no, not yet, I'm not ready. It is something you're hoping someone else will offer and then you'll show up for it. But my beloved friend, let this moment be the moment where I say it is for you to take that bold and courageous step and to offer and to facilitate and to give the people what they need most from you, your medicine, your sacred space, where people can rest in your company and you will guide them to a deeper part of themselves. There are many sorrows in this world that will carry on happening until we gather in her name and administer her medicine. Let us not continue to deny what we know is happening, but to join together with our brothers and sisters, animals and fish and birds and insects and reptiles and elements and fairies and those who have no names. And let us join together in union to serve the one right, which is creation, and our right to not only be here, but thrive alongside, shoulder to shoulder, paw to paw, claw to claw. Our right to be here. As you climb into your beds tonight, placing your hands over your womb and hara, ask yourselves, what brave, scary step can I take and reach for? Because what you are reaching for, there is a part of you already there, inhabiting that realm and saying, finally, you've arrived. Amen.
Anaiya, it's such a privilege to have you here tonight. I'm beaming. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Oh,
So lovely.
So lovely. I just feel that, standing in a gateway between worlds, that's what it
Mm,
feels like speaking with you in time, and how lucky we are to be here in this moment and be even having these conversations. I mean, wow.
yeah.
And thank you for guiding everyone listening to themselves and nothing outside of themselves, to
Mm,
themselves. Thank you so much. You are listening to Wild at Heart Radio. My name is Phoenix Nigic. I'm the Womb Whisperer. And it is time for us to close this space, this circle, and say goodnight to that winking, waxing moon, that naughty, fiery, passionate moon. And go to bed. Thank you, everyone, and good night.
Thank you.